what would you say you do here?
Well, look, I already told you. I deal with the goddamn customers so the engineers don't have to. I have people skills. I am good at dealing with people. Can't you understand that? What the hell is wrong with you people?
You're fired. Get out of here.
It's a crazy world, crazy world. Somebody's gotta have to save you. It's a crazy world. It's a crazy world. Somebody's gotta have to save you.
All right, you highly efficient humanoids. I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report on November 13th, 2024. We are live streaming on Rumble, YouTube, and Locals. Share, subscribe, notification bell, ding, 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 all that stuff. Post-game show, RubinReport.locals.com. And I don't have to do much explaining as to what the show is today, what the narrative of the program will be. Woke is broke. That basically is it. We're going to toss in a couple other things, and we've got some questions from the Locals community, but it is woke is broke and some of Trump's new picks, and very, very quickly, I think people are realizing that this is going to be a hell of an administration. The picks so far, I think, have been fantastic. Obviously, there's always going to be little bits of infighting. The media is not going to like it, no matter who he picks for anything, particularly if they're effective at their jobs, because as I tweeted this morning, it's not that these people, the Democrats and the machine and the MSNBC class, it's not that they ever really feared that Donald Trump was Hitler. I think the thing that they fear the most right now is that Donald Trump is going to bring in the right people, and then suddenly things will change for the better so quickly that everyone, even the apolitical people, will be like, whoa, those people really were evil, and we almost handed the keys to the kingdom to them. So on that note, we will dive in with a little bit of woke is broke. This clip, I wanted to get to this a couple days ago, but it so perfectly sums up the faux morality and the hysterical emotion of these wokesters. There was a panel on CNN. You know how these panels work. There's like 17 woke lunatics and one semi-sane guy, and okay, the usual stuff. But check this out. There's a guy by the name of Shermichael Singleton, and he is talking about boys and girls sports. And then Jay Michelson, again, you don't need to know any of these people's names. They're largely irrelevant. CNN's irrelevant. They're firing a whole bunch of people. We'll get to that in a minute. Doesn't matter. Just watch this little blowout as it pertains to boys and girls sports. And it perfectly illustrates why we are all done with this nonsense.
I think there are a lot of families out there who don't believe boys should play girls' sports.
They're not boys. I'm not going to listen to transphobia at this table. I am not going to listen to you call a trans girl a boy.
Are you going to allow me to finish my explanation?
When you use a word that's a slur, I'm going to interrupt. That's not how it is. They're not boys. They're not boys. They're not playing girls softball. I'm not going to sit there and listen to that.
Let's reset for a second, because, look, this is a really heated issue, right? And Shermichael, I know you. I know that you understand that people have different views on this. I think out of respect for Jay, like, let's try to talk about this in a way that is respectful.
Okay, so let me rephrase this, since I'm being targeted here.
I don't. You're not. Just to be clear, you are not being
but
targeted.
I am. But it's okay.
I'm specifically saying that I know that you are not intending to be transphobic.
He should know that I'm not. But he wants to sit here and bloviate.
I'm saying you're using a phrase
I want to
that
give
you
you an
know.
opportunity.
So the way regular people interpret it,
that's not regular people. That's not regular people. There's no consensus that these are actually boys. This whole thing about trans girls is a canard. We're talking about a tiny, tiny sliver of the population.
That may be the
and
case,
we're using
but my point in terms of its effectiveness.
Just get to your point.
My point in terms of its effectiveness. Regular people with children look at these things and they say, you know what, this is a bit too far. I do not agree with this. I don't like this. I think Democrats are going way too much to the left on social issues. They're uncomfortable with it. A lot of people believe that. A lot of families believe that. You may disagree with that reality, but that's why Republicans kept running those ads over and over and over again. because they saw the metrics suggested
and
that they were
lying
working.
in those ads over and over again and using rhetoric like you just used, saying this is boys playing girls sports.
Well,
Which, first of all, we're
what's
talking about
what's the
5 people
language?
in the
What's the
entire
language
country.
you would prefer?
We're talking about trans girls being allowed to play with the people who are in their gender. And if you don't believe, you don't have to listen to me. Listen to the American Medical Association, the American Psychological Association.
The American Medical
This is not about the issue.
Guys,
Right?
just one second.
This is about.
I can't imagine why people are tuning out of CNN in droves and why they're so over the woke bullshit. I think I'm more of a rabbi than that guy. If that guy's a rabbi, I'm a rabbi. Congratulations, we're all rabbis at this point. Completely ridiculous, utterly ridiculous. To the defense of Shermichael there, to say that boys are playing in girls' sports is not a slur or anything else. That would be the thing that, well, not only is it true, so that's good because truth is good, but also to say it is to defend actual girls. So sorry, Rabbi. Who ordained this guy? Can we get a little information? Like the Clown College, it was the Krusty the Clown College. They're doing rabbis now. Just utterly ridiculous. And this fake emotion and, oh, listen to the scientific journals and everything else. I'm sorry. If you're a third grader and somehow your parents or the teachers have confused you about your gender and you suddenly think you're a girl and you're actually a boy, that doesn't make you a girl. My boys are 2 right now. They're really into the Transformers. Justin is not Megatron, although I'd prefer that over Optimus Prime. Bad guys are always cooler. It's just absurd. And also the way the moderator has to, you've been disrespected. Can we just level set this thing? What does she say? Let's rephrase. And then Shermichael, I'm being targeted at the table. We are just done with all you pathetic losers. And you're all going to lose your job soon. We're getting to that in a moment. Let's jump back over to CNN for a moment because Dana Bash, who I suspect will not have a job much longer, and it's well-deserved. She had a Trump campaign official on, and they were also getting into it about this trans nonsense. Like, they can't stop. They just can't stop themselves. Take a look.
So speaking of policy, your campaign flooded the airwaves in the battleground states and on national cable, even on networks and streaming during NFL games, with ads specifically focused on a trans issue. I want you to listen to some of it, and we'll talk on the other side.
Even the liberal media was shocked Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners and illegal aliens.
Every transgender inmate would have access.
Kamala's for they, them. President Trump is for you.
The transgender community in the U.S. is very, very small. It got really outsized attention. There are a lot of people who say that your campaign demonized the trans community as a way to present a wedge issue for perhaps men of color, suburban parents. Why do you think, and I know you believe that those ads worked, why do you think they worked?
Well, first of all, we didn't demonize the transgender community. In fact, this really isn't even about transgender issues. This ad is really about misplaced priorities. At the end of the day, it is a small minority of the country that thinks taxpayer dollars should be spent on that sort of thing. And when you have a majority of the country who is saying very clearly that they don't believe the government is working for them, they're worse off than they were 4 years ago, the country is in the wrong track, and then to see a presidential candidate who is saying she's going to move this agenda forward and that's how taxpayer dollars should be spent, it just doesn't comport with them. They don't think the government is working for them.
Yeah, good job, James Blair. There's a good spokesman for a campaign and for an administration, if that's a job he's looking for. Dana, again, you don't even believe any of this bullshit. I think you have a son, if I'm not mistaken. If one day you found out that at school your son was being taught that he was a girl and wanted to be called Lisa instead of Lee, you would be pissed. So it's all fake, emotive, nonsensical bullshit. And again, we're largely getting over it, which is why I think now it's worth, as they push it right at the end, I think it's really worth pushing back right now. No more of this nonsense. Now, if you want to see a group of hypocritical people that should get an award for hypocrisy, the Worldwide Federation Hypocrisy Award. They are over on MSNBC. Mika Brzezinski, who's married to crazy Joe Scarborough, and they sit there every day and do their little program, which I'm also sure is going to get the axe soon enough, and MSNBC is up for sale. We'll have more on that in a moment. Here she is saying that Democrats are realizing that woke is broke and that it was a mistake. And I don't want to lead too much, but I would say no shit, Sherlock.
We want to get to the Maureen Dowd piece. We're going to do something a little different this morning because we're going to read the entire piece, but it's worth it. I think a lot of people have already been talking about this. We got a lot of calls about this piece, and it's an interesting message for Democrats. Maureen Dowd's piece for the New York Times entitled Democrats and the Case of Mistaken Identity Politics. It really crystallized how some Democrats are finally waking up and realizing that woke is broke.
Yeah. Screw you, lady, and screw you, Maureen Dowd, and screw you, New York Times, and screw you, MSNBC. You guys pushed all of this on us. Now that you realize that you're losing, you are going to pretend you had nothing to do with it. But we are not going to forget because you almost destroyed this entire country, right? A week ago, we could have elected Kamala Harris, and that would have strengthened all of the horrific ideas that have been ruining the greatest human governmental experiment in the history of the world. And it's because of you. And if you want a perfect example of how they will pretend they had nothing to do with it, the very people who pushed it, slammed it on you, squirted it all over you. Ugh, Joe Scarborough.
That white elitists that run the Democratic Party are far to the left of many black and Hispanic voters in the Democratic Party. And I remember a pollster for Barack Obama, I think his name was David Sachs, forgive me for, came out and had that poll in 2017, and he got absolutely hammered on Twitter. Absolutely hammered by the far left. How dare you say this? How dare you? But he was right. And it was true in 17, and it was doubly true in 2024.
I wish that segment would have ended with one of his producers just throwing a pie in his face. Like the producer, the guy behind the camera being like, I can't take this bullshit anymore. Dude, Joe, you are the white elitist. You have been running around calling everybody racist and transphobe and blah, 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 because they believe in the biological sex differences and because they don't want racism being put into the system via equity and all of the things. You're the exact person that you are talking about, you absolute clown. And also, I don't think the pollster is David Sachs, and you probably owe David Sachs an apology for that. But in a beautiful note of, well, I guess this is just comeuppance for all these freaks. Check this out. Comcast reportedly set to sell left-wing network MSNBC. As I mentioned yesterday, I am down to throw 500 grand in on this. So if a group of people want to do this thing, 500 grand I will put into to own MSNBC. I mean, I guess there's no point in putting this show on MSNBC. It's a crap factory, but I would just turn the whole place into a padded cell and just like once a week we'd throw a bucket of old fish heads and we could watch Joy Reid fight with Joe Scarborough. That's entertainment. I would watch that. Anyway, there's lots of rumors of who might buy it. No one's buying, and whoever buys it, by the way, would not be buying MSNBC to keep any of the programming or think that anything's good. What you would do is you would buy it because then you get access to the cable networks, meaning you'd be basically buying the channel, right? And then you can flip it into whatever you want. This would be a perfect example of that would be some of you guys may remember this about 15, maybe even more years ago, 15 years or so. No, I think it's only about 10 years ago. Al Gore, who post-vice president, owned something called Current TV, and he used all of his connections via being vice president to create Current TV, so it got on all the channels. And then when it was a failure, he sold it, and Glenn Beck tried to buy it, if I'm not mistaken, for about $500 million to put the Blaze on cable TV. Gore didn't want to sell it to scary right-wing Glenn Beck, so he sold it to Al Jazeera. Yeah, he sold it to the government of Qatar to put their propaganda network. And by the way, they use an awful lot of fossil fuels over there too. And basically, he walked away with 500 mil. You know, he owned like 30% of it or something like that. So you're not buying MSNBC as it has any value, right? You're just buying the access to the cable channels to then flip it and do whatever you want with it. But it's not just MSNBC that is failing, which is beautiful. It's also CNN. Check this out from the Daily Mail. CNN is planning to wield the axe on some of its high-paid staff after dismal election ratings that cap off a disastrous period for the cable news network. It comes after the departure of stalwart Chris Wallace and amid reports senior stars like Wolf Blitzer and Jake Tapper have both been denied raises. There is no mention of who may be on the chopping block. The highest paid stars include Anderson Cooper, who makes $20 million a year, Aaron Burnett $6 million, and rising star Caitlin Collins $3 million. In the next few months, I'm told CNN will implement another round of layoffs that will impact hundreds of employees across the organization. Reporter Dylan Byers wrote on Friday, referencing CNN's recent 100-person layoff seen over the summer. Some of the on-air talent are also likely to be affected, he went on to reveal. Sources who spoke to the reporter, who worked at CNN for 3 years before founding Puck, added how the looming layoffs are part of an overarching plan, one that puts a premium on the station's digital platforms. I mean, first off, so they're going to go digital. Congratulations. You guys put, I think, $500 million into CNN Plus. It lasted for like 2 weeks. So good luck with all of that. That's number one. You've completely ruined the brand. Nobody trusts you anymore. $20 million for Anderson Cooper? That is absolutely insane. We do better numbers than Anderson Cooper. Like, that is completely insane. Wolf for $3 million. I mean, Wolf's got to eat. I guess that's okay. And the rising star, Caitlin Collins. Okay. The point is, guys, they're being buried. And we just, at the moment, I promise you, when the time is right, we will not talk about these people anymore. But it's happening, and we have to make sure it happens, right? When you're starting to win, you don't just you can do two things at once. You have to do all of the good things to blaze the new trail for America. That's Trump's doing. But you also have to make sure that all of the people who got you to this horrible place that we have been in, right, that we all know, we all really are feeling it now because everyone's feeling so good about everything right now. It's making, I think, a lot of people realize what we've been feeling for the last 4 years, whether you woke up and thought about it every day or not, this just icing of everything that was good. So we do have to make sure that these people get destroyed. I mean that. Like, they just do not deserve their jobs. These networks don't deserve to exist. It just is what it is. We'll have more now on the good side of things, because good things are happening. But first, let me talk to you about SimpliSafe. Imagine a burglary at your home. If you're picturing a shady character sneaking around at night, you might be surprised to learn that according to the FBI, most break-ins actually happen during broad daylight when homes are often left unattended. That's why you need SimpliSafe Home Security. It's the only security company I trust to protect my home and family, giving me complete peace of mind whether I'm at home or away. With Fast Protect monitoring and Live Guard protection, SimpliSafe's agents can respond within 5 seconds of receiving an alarm. They can even see and speak to intruders, stopping them in their tracks. There's no long-term contract, so you're free to cancel anytime. And with transparent pricing at less than $1 a day, there are no hidden fees ever. SimpliSafe has been named Best Home Security System by U.S. News & World Report for 5 years in a row, and was also recognized for Best Customer Service by Newsweek. You can set it up yourself in under an hour or choose professional installation if you prefer. Protect your home with 20% off any new SimpliSafe system when you sign up for Fast Protect monitoring. Just visit simplisafe.com/Ruben. That's simplisafe.com/Ruben. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. All right. I mentioned a moment ago that what I think is happening right now is that a whole bunch of people are really upset because they're going to see that things can be changed quickly, right? They never thought that Donald Trump was Hitler. That's why they often would attend parties or dinners with him, like Chuck Schumer and the MSNBC class. Like, they never believed any of this. They just wanted their people to remain in power. And then suddenly what's going to happen is, as Donald Trump brings in the right people, things will start reversing. And fast, and you can see it happening across the world already. I'm getting a crazy amount of emails suddenly from people in the UK who are telling me they're seeing the seeds of change there now because the world is starting to realize, oh, America is back. One of the main things that Donald Trump is going to do is make sure that government is efficient. Elon Musk sort of jokingly months ago announced the Department of Government Efficiency. Well, Trump actually made it official yesterday. He wrote this: "I'm pleased to announce that the great Elon Musk, working in conjunction with American patriot Vivek Ramaswamy, will lead the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Together, these two wonderful Americans will pave the way for my administration to dismantle government bureaucracy, slash excess regulations, cut wasteful expenditures, and restructure federal agencies, essential to the Save America movement. This will send shockwaves through the system and anyone involved in government waste, which is a lot of people, stated Mr. Musk. It will become potentially the Manhattan Project of our time. Republican politicians have dreamed about the objectives of DOGE for a very long time. To drive this kind of drastic change, the Department of Government Efficiency will provide advice and guidance from outside of government and will partner with the White House and Office of Management and Budget to drive large-scale structural reform and create an entrepreneurial approach to government never seen before. I look forward to Elon and Vivek making changes to the federal bureaucracy with an eye on efficiency and at the same time making life better for all Americans. Importantly, we will drive out the massive waste and fraud which exists throughout our annual $6.5 trillion of government spending. They will work together to liberate our economy and make the U.S. government accountable to we the people. Their work will conclude no later than July 4th, 2026. A small government with more efficiency and less bureaucracy will be the perfect gift to America on the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. I am confident they will succeed. Well, first off, lining this up with July 4th, 2026, the 250-year anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, that is the birth of America, right? Like, how beautiful is that? The fact that they're putting an end date, that he's announcing it and saying when it will wrap up. The government never does that. And there are no two better people who could do this, right? Vivek has explained, perhaps more than anybody, over and over and over again, how these departments need to be reformed, right? He sat here just, 2 months ago, and we spent about a half hour on the debate, whether do you make incremental changes or do you just blow them up? If you haven't seen that interview, you absolutely should watch it if you're interested in this sort of thing. And then Elon, a man who knows how to build, who knows how to do great things, he's gonna do it. And he's going to do it fast. When I saw that post right there from Trump, I retweeted it and I wrote, "It really is happening," because it really is happening. And Elon responded to me and he said, "People have no idea how much this will move the needle." And I think that's the point, guys. We are going to see things happen. We're going to see it happen quickly. We're going to put end dates on things. We're going to slash the federal budget. They already announced they're going to cut 600 jobs from the NIH. Look, and again, as I said yesterday, some good people are going to get caught up in that. There will be decent people who will lose their job, but you don't just deserve a job in the government because you have a job in the government. We have to tighten our belt. And by the way, as we do this, and I really mean it, I think, quote me on this on July 4th, 2026, when they cut $2 trillion from the government, things will be better for basically everybody. But that does not mean that a certain set of people won't try to stop them, because of course they will. Elon wrote this because everyone's saying this is a threat to democracy. It's a threat to democracy if you get rid of the bureaucracy. So Elon wrote, threat to democracy? Nope, threat to bureaucracy. That's the thing that everyone is going for. And then this woman is just this fake Indian woman is just terrible. Elizabeth Warren, she wrote this when she heard about DOGE. The Office of Government Efficiency is off to a great start with split leadership, 2 people to do the work of 1 person. Yeah, this seems really efficient. This woman, out of all, it's hard to say who the worst Democrat is. It's like you've got the Hamas member and then you've got the woman who married her brother. But I think that this fake communist Indian is the worst. Well, she's not a fake communist. She's a communist fake Indian. She's probably the worst of the worst. The woman's worth probably at least 20 mil. She pushes for communist bullshit. And yes, that's the problem, that Vivek and Elon, who basically, I'm going to guess, are going to take next to Elon is not going to, maybe he'll take $1. You probably have to get $1 or something. And I would guess Vivek too. They're going to take next to nothing. And that's the problem. You smug, stupid beep. Yeah, that's the problem. Okay, no, you're the problem. You're the problem. This is completely unrelated to DOGE specific. Well, maybe it's not related to DOGE. Is it not related to DOGE? I think it might be related to DOGE. I'm just getting this information just now. Apparently, Don Lemon is leaving X because of DOGE.
Hi, everyone. I have loved connecting with all of you on Twitter and then on X for all of these years. But it's time for me to leave the platform. I once believed that it was a place for honest debate and discussion, transparency and free speech. But I now feel it does not serve that purpose. In addition, starting this Friday, November 15th, X is implementing new terms of service, which among other things states that, quote, all disputes be brought exclusively in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Texas or state courts located in Tarrant County, Texas, end quote. The full terms of service can be found on my written statement or on the X website. Now, as the Washington Post recently reported on X's decision to change the terms, this, quote, ensures that such lawsuits will be heard in courthouses that are a hub for conservatives, which experts say could make it easier for X to shield itself from litigation and punish critics. I think that speaks for itself. You can find me on YouTube at The Don Lemon Show, or on TikTok and Facebook at Don Lemon, and on Instagram and Blue Sky at Don Lemon Official. I hope you will join me there. Thanks.
No, we're not joining you, and I'm really making it official. We had joked a few months ago I was never going to say his name again on the show, and and these things can be tough sometimes. We're never mentioning him again. That is the final nail in the coffin. Goodbye, Don Lemon. Yes, you have no problem being on TikTok, owned by the Chinese government. You have no problem with big tech, YouTube, and the rest of it. But your problem is with X, because too many people can speak freely, and you're so for the system, and the system didn't even want anything to do with you, that it fired you from CNN, then half-assedly brought you back, and I'm pretty sure you've been fired again. You're a worthless nothing, and goodbye to, for the last time, Don Lemon. When life gives you Don Lemon, don't drink it. Here's Elon explaining the importance of creating a Department of Government Efficiency.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're being taxed. You're being taxed. All government spending is taxation. So whether it's direct taxation or all government spending, it either becomes inflation or it's direct taxation. Your money is being wasted, and the Department of Government Efficiency is going to fix that. We're going to get the government off your back and out of your pocketbook.
I kind of like Doge. It's more fun. Where we just take a look at all the federal agencies and say, do we really need whatever it is, 428 federal agencies? Like, if there's so many that people have never even heard of, and that have overlapping areas of responsibility, we should, I don't know, probably. We should get. I mean, there are more federal agencies than there are years since the establishment of the United States, which means that we've created more than one federal agency per year on average. That seems a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. So we should have. That seems crazy. I think we should be able to get away with 99 agencies. I don't know. That seems a lot like a lot of agencies.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
2 per state, that's a lot.
Yeah, exactly. We should have fewer agencies, and they certainly shouldn't have overlapping responsibilities. And then we need some kind of, we just need a review of regulations to say which ones are sensible and which ones are not. Because if you've got regulators every year, they're going to add more regulations, just automatic. Like they just output regulations. And there's more laws and regulations every year until basically everything's legal, so we can't get anything done.
Yeah, so right now, as it stands, we have 400-something federal agencies. He's saying we can get it down to 99, and why not? Do you think these guys are great at their jobs? And of course, when you put in all these regulations, regulators want more regulations. I'll just tell you a quick story. When I bought my house in Los Angeles, it was a new construction house, right? Brand new house, and you bring the inspectors in when you're buying a house. And there was a pool inspector, and he inspected my pool and said it was perfect. He said, there's nothing that needs to be changed. He was like, your builder did an absolutely great job. It's wonderful. Then when I was selling my house a year later, when I realized I had to get the F out of California, when someone else was buying my house, they happened to hire the same exact guy. The exact same guy who had been at my house a year before. And suddenly he was like, no, there's 4 or 5 things wrong with this pool, and it's going to cost you about $1,500. Because everyone's in on the grift. It's not good for the inspector to always be like, oh yeah, that house, it was built perfectly properly, because then you're not going to have a job, right? So I think we can cut huge amount of these agencies. I think the 99 number, he's kind of just pulling that out of his butt. It's like less than 100, so there you go. But it's like, that is right. We don't need these people. And that's what people like Elizabeth Warren and all the MSNBC class, they're defending. They're defending the bureaucracy. And wouldn't it be great, guys, if they could cut all of these jobs, make government more efficient, more transparent, and then guess what the result of that is? You're going to have more of your money. I don't want to take the money from billionaires, and I don't want to take the money from people making 65 grand a year. How about everyone gets back more money? How about when you look at your federal income tax, that in a few years after they do this, that right after July 4th, 2026, Trump can be like, all right, well, we did a hell of a job here. We cut $2 trillion there. By the way, we also scaled back the wars, so Ukraine's not getting all this money. We did a whole bunch of stuff. Things are looking smooth. And actually, we're going to take the federal income tax down, say 10% for everybody. And then you would have more money to do what you want with your own money. There's evidence that this can work. I love this video. You know, we've shown you this video from Javier Milei in Argentina, who right before he got elected was talking about all the agencies he was going to throw away. And every time we've shown it to you, we do it obviously in his native Spanish with the translations beneath. But we have this new AI software that we checked a couple days ago. It doesn't exactly sound like Milei, but just this is how you destroy government bureaucracy.
Ministry of Tourism and Sports, out. Ministry of Culture, out. Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development, out. Ministry of Women, Gender, and Diversity, out. Ministry of Public Works, out. Even if you resist. Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation, out. Ministry of Labor, Employment, and Social Security, out. Ministry of Education, Indoctrination, out. Ministry of Transport, out. Ministry of Health, out. Ministry of Social Development, out. The scam of politics is over. Long live freedom, damn it.
Look, we're doing the best we can with the AI thing. So they've got to work on the voice part, right? And there are versions of it where they can make that better. So we're working on that. But the point is, oh, damn it. Like, the point is, you can do it. And what's happening in Argentina right now, the guy has been president for about a year. What's happening in Argentina right now is their economy is booming, absolutely booming. And you might say, but Dave, it's tough. How could you get rid of the Ministry of Women, Gender, and Diversity? These people are doing important work. Well, they're not. And actually, in our departments, we have a bunch of racists and bigots and morons. We mentioned the story yesterday that the Daily Wire broke that FEMA had not been helping certain Trump supporters, right? So people that were affected by our recent hurricanes, if they had Trump signs in their lawns, there was a directive sent out by a FEMA agent to not help those people. It has now been corroborated. It's being covered by the mainstream, which is no longer mainstream, so I'm going to need a new phrase for that. But one of the fired FEMA workers, went on this, Roland Martin, I'm no fan of this guy, but went on his show and explained how this is not just an isolated incident.
Let's walk through this. First of all, when were you notified? Because the Daily Wire said there was a whistleblower who made this point. Go ahead.
I was notified after I demobbed. The next morning, they told me verbally I was fired, but they never provided me anything in writing stating that I was fired. They all alleged that these actions were made on my own recognizances and that it was for my own political advances. However, if you look at the record, there is what we call a community trend. And unfortunately, it just so happened that the political hostility that was encountered by my team, and I was on 2 different teams during this deployment, they just so happened to have the Trump campaign signage. FEMA always preaches avoidance first and then de-escalation. So this is not isolated. This is a colossal event of avoidance, not just in the state of Florida, but you will find avoidance in the Carolinas. Senior leadership will lie to you and tell you that they do not know. But if you ask the DSA crew leads and specialists what they are experiencing in the field, they will tell you. Demand for FEMA to give you those incident reports. They will substantiate what is happening to us in the field.
Do you see why the Democrats of the machine don't want any of this exposed? Do you see why Elizabeth Warren is mocking DOJ? Because if they start ripping this thing apart, if they start looking under the hood, they are going to find many, many more incidences of this type of thing. Not just FEMA being like, okay, we're not going to go to Trump people and help them, but they're going to find things that we cannot imagine as it relates to what they were doing when it comes to kids and gender in school and all sorts of things across the board in those 400 plus agencies. So this is just the beginning, and bravo to Jeremy Boring and Ben Shapiro and everybody at the Daily Wire for breaking this, because this is exactly what Americans need to hear. Our systems and our institutions have been rotted and broken, and hot diggity damn, we're about to take the Renaissance man of our time, Elon Musk, and Vivek, who's probably the best explainer of why these ideas are bad, at least, in the top 10, let's say, and they're going to go ahead and start chopping away at things, and we're going to expose some pretty nasty stuff. Speaking of nasty stuff, Anthony Fauci, he's back again. The man, it's incredible. It's like they every time we think he's gone, someone puts a little water on him and he replicates himself again like a gremlin. Here he is on the news, and he still is defending his COVID stuff as it pertains to schools and a whole bunch more.
As we get further from COVID, I think a lot of people though are asking themselves, what did we learn and what will we do better the next time? And one clear area seems to be the school closures, right, which did enormous harm to kids on multiple levels and didn't seem to save lives. And I wonder, can we say today that that is a mistake, the closures?
I think what was not a mistake was the actual closure, because when we had to shut down that 15-day to flatten the curve, we were in a tsunami of cases. Right here in New York, you had freezer trucks in front of Elmhurst Hospital.
I remember the hospital outside my house, but I'm not talking about the initial. No, I'm not talking about the initial. I'm talking about the depth.
I'm going to get to that.
Okay,
and the issue is shutting down everything immediately, and we didn't shut it down completely, but essentially major social distancing in even schools was the right thing. How long you kept it was the problem, because there was a disparity throughout the country. If you go back and look at the YouTube, I kept on saying, close the bars, open the schools as quickly and as safely as you possibly can. But initially, to close it down was correct.
I'm not talking about
initially. Keeping it for a year was not a good idea.
So that was a mistake in retrospect. We will not repeat.
Guys, that video right there is the most perfect example of why these agencies must be destroyed. Destroyed, not reformed, destroyed. You want to cut more than 300 of them, 400 plus? Elon, go for it. That guy, first off, there's so many videos of him saying shut it all down and shut down the schools. He's also admitted that social distancing was completely made up. 6-foot social distancing was completely made up. We would have got to herd immunity faster, all of the stuff. I'm so sick about talking about it. But that the media brings back the guy who screwed up everything, who will get 400 plus grand a year for the rest of his life from the U.S. government. I might have the Department of Government Efficiency look into that. Hey, Elon, could you look into that? Maybe there's a way to cut the cash that he's going to be getting. I mean, can you imagine, like, if the guy lives another 10 years, he's going to have $4 million from the government? He deserves absolutely nothing. He should be paying us all back. And of course, what he does, I just love this video, so it's always worth throwing in, is that he is the Palpatine of the story, right? Barack Obama is the Palpatine of our political story, that he's been the evil, shadowy figure behind all that. But here's Fauci's most Palpatine moment. You remember I am the Senate. Here's Fauci.
Now you're at the focal point. What is your level of concern that we're going to discredit public health officials to the point of, look at Russia. They actually have a good vaccine, and none of their citizens will take it because they don't trust their own government.
Right. It's very dangerous, Chuck, because a lot of what you're seeing as attacks on me, quite frankly, are attacks on science.
That should go down as one of the most ludicrous statements ever uttered by a human being ever. I am not a scientist, yet I did not get vaxxed. No one in this room got vaxxed because we all made decisions and choices based around our own health and not listening to people like you. And Chuck, I think a little more skepticism about the government, the very same government that was firing healthcare workers because they didn't want to get vaxxed when a week before they were telling them that they were the people who were completely, these are the best people in the world and we have to save them and they're the best. And You're all replaceable, but not them. awful. Anyway, I'm playing you that clip because the point is, whether it's FEMA discriminating against Trump supporters or it's people like Fauci that still won't admit all the damage they did, we are getting on the other side of it. We're getting on the other side of it because we're going to reform the agencies, and because, as far as I can tell so far, Donald Trump's picks have been pretty damn perfect. And yesterday he announced his Department of Defense, the head of the Department of Defense pick. He wrote this on Truth Social: "I'm honored to announce that I have nominated Pete Hegseth to serve in my cabinet as the Secretary of Defense. Pete has spent his entire life as a warrior for the troops and for the country. Pete is tough, smart, and a true believer in America first. With Pete at the helm, America's enemies are on notice, our military will be great again, and America will never back down. Pete is a graduate of Princeton University and has a graduate degree from Harvard University. He's an Army combat veteran who did tours in Guantanamo Bay, Iraq, and Afghanistan. For his actions on the battlefield, he was decorated with 2 Bronze Stars as well as a Combat Infantryman's Badge. Pete has been a host at Fox News for 8 years, where he used that platform to fight for our military and veterans. Pete's recent book, The War on Warriors, spent 9 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list, including 2 weeks at #1. The book reveals the left-wing betrayal of our warriors and how we must return our military to meritocracy, lethality, accountability, and excellence. Pete also has led 2 veterans advocacy organizations leading the fight for our warriors and our great veterans. Nobody fights harder for the troops, and Pete will be a courageous and patriotic champion of our peace through strength policy." I think there is every bit of evidence to see why Pete Hegseth is going to be an excellent head of the Department of Defense. Not only it's his track record, but as a television personality, he will be able to get up there and deal with the tough questions and communicate the policies properly and everything else. I do know Pete, like I would say, fairly well. I was on Gutfeld with him a couple of weeks ago. We've done each other's shows many times. I've seen him, hung out with him backstage. He's a good guy. He loves this freaking country, and I think he is going to do a bang-up job. This video of him from a few months ago on how you would reform the U.S. military has gone viral, and I think you'll see how it perfectly fits within everything else that this administration, this upcoming administration, seems to be about.
There's a chance to course correct it, but it would take the new Trump administration going after it really hard.
How would they correct it?
Well, first of all, you got to fire, you got to fire the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and you got to fire this. I mean, obviously, you're going to bring in a new Secretary of Defense, but any general that was involved, general, admiral, whatever, that was involved in any of the DEI woke it's got to go. Either you're in for war fighting, and that's it, and that's the only litmus test we care about. You got to get DEI and CRT out of military academies, so you're not training young officers to be baptized in this type of thinking. And then, whatever the standards, whatever the combat standards were, say, in, 1995, let's just make those the standards. And as far as recruiting, to hire the guy that, did Top Gun Maverick and create some real ads that motivate people to want to serve. And there's lots of other ways in which you could identify who gets promoted and what, but there's an ethos change. I mean, there's a reason people don't want to serve, because they don't trust that their senior leaders are going to have their best interest in mind in combat. I know there were mistakes made on our tours all over the place, but I, at least for the most part, had a sense that my senior leaders were committed to the completion of the mission for the right reasons. And maybe there were strategic differences and all that other stuff, and it wasn't always perfect, but that trust is broken, and you have to reestablish that trust by putting in no-nonsense warfighters in those positions who aren't going to cater to the socially correct garbage.
It even says "We the People" tattooed right on his forearm there. I think you can see right there exactly why I think he's the right pick. He can communicate the ideas. He's been in the belly of the beast. He's got the TV presence, and he just laid it out. You got to fire a whole bunch of people at the top. We have to get DEI and the woke stuff out, because basically you're training our own military to be Marxists, right? That's what you're doing by doing that. And you're not bringing in the best people. We have to get our standards to be part of the military to be better. We know that they've consistently lowered standards because you can't be discriminatory against fat people or people who can't jump, but you might have to jump if you're in the military. But it's not just Pete Hegseth that I think he's nailed. There's more. This is his Trump's announcement on Truth Social for his CIA pick. Here what I'm pleased to announce, that former Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, will serve as my Director of the CIA. from exposing fake Russia collusion to be a Clinton campaign operation to catching the FBI's abuse of civil liberties at the FISA court, John Ratcliffe has always been a warrior for truth and honesty with the American public. When 51 intelligence officials were lying about Hunter Biden's laptop, there was one, John Ratcliffe, telling the truth to the American people. So again, there's just a lot of evidence that he's hiring competent people. And if you want to see some evidence of John Ratcliffe being competent, well, here he is grilling former FBI agent Peter Strzok for basically going after Trump without reason.
The approximately 50,000 text messages that I've seen with your personal beliefs like F Trump, stop Trump, impeach Trump, go ahead and confirm on the record that none of that occurred on an official FBI device or on official FBI time. Go ahead and do that.
Sir, no, they did. Many of them did.
Oh, they did. Okay, so
50,000, sir.
So really, no, I'll give you a chance at the end. So what you really meant to say was that when you said you never crossed that bright, inviolable line, what you meant to say was, except for 50,000 times, except for hundreds of times a day where I went back and forth, expressing my personal opinions about effing Trump and stopping Trump and impeaching Trump on official FBI phones, on official FBI time. Other than that, you never crossed that line. I'm sure there are 13,000 FBI agents out there that are beaming with pride at how clearly you've drawn that line. Agent Strzok, are you starting to understand why some folks out there don't believe a word you say, and why it's especially troubling that you, of all people, are at the center of the 3 highest profile investigations in recent times that involve President Trump, and that you were in charge of an investigation investigating, gathering evidence against Donald Trump, a subject that you hated, that you wanted to F him, to stop him, to impeach him? And do you see why that might call into question everything you've touched on all of those investigations? Chairman, I'm done with this witness, and I yield back.
Peter wanted to F Donald Trump? Nobody wants to think that. I think you can see that this guy's pretty freaking competent and knows what he's doing. And that illustrates right there, again, why they don't want the swamp drained. The swamp has existed to operate as a way to destroy the Republican Party, largely destroy conservative values. But it's not conservative values. It's in essence to destroy America and to take out anyone that would fight for America. And Donald Trump became the avatar of that more than anyone else. And you can see it's like, how can you be using official FBI channels and emails and everything and saying these over-the-top ridiculous things about the President of the United States on top of the 51 intelligence officials and everything else. I got one more thing before we get to the community Q&A because I think this ties a nice bow on it. Elon Musk tweeted this: normally PACs go somewhat dormant after a big election. America PAC is going to do the opposite and keep grinding, increasing Republican registrations in key districts around the country in preparation for special elections and the midterms. So they're all in. They are all in at every level. For everything we've seen in the last week has been transparent. We know who's involved. We know who are vying for positions. We know who are taking the agencies so far. Like, it's all looking good. It does not mean that they're not, it definitely does mean that they are going to keep fighting across the way and they're going to keep doing more over the top crazy shit. And we'll call them out on that. But first, let's talk about Rumble Premium. And then we've got a RubinReport.locals.com community Q&A on the other side. When Rumble first started in 2013, they built the platform for the small creator. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or censor opinions around COVID, but they did. Facebook admitted they fell to pressure from the Biden and Harris administration. Of course, Rumble did not. They held the line. They're attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk to you. They're attacked in corporate media. They're attacked by governments like France. They're attacked by brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove free speech while Rumble is fighting to keep it. Rumble won't survive with brand advertisers alone. They don't get much of it. So watching our show is the number one way we can ask for support from you. But if you really believe in this fight and you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. Join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with promo code Rubin when you purchase an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium/Rubin and use code Rubin. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now is the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, we're just happy if you watch us right here on Rumble. All right, let's get to a RubinReport.locals.com community Q&A. We're going to have to do this somewhat briefly. I'm on Piers Morgan at noon, so there'll be no post-game show today just because we're real jam-packed, but I'll try to give you the best answers I possibly can to make it up for you. James says, Dave, what are your thoughts about the locals community chipping in for a participation trophy for Vice President Harris? No, she deserves nothing. Keep your money, take your wife or your husband out to dinner, your friends, enjoy yourself, keep the cash for yourself, and you're going to have more cash in your pocket pretty soon thanks to the defeat of Kamala. And she's another one. Like, I'm not I almost said it. That guy, we're just done with him. It's not Voldemort. We're just done because you're irrelevant. Kamala, we're almost done saying her name too, because she's basically unemployed in a couple months and deserves it intensely. Beata says, many corporations started closing their DEI departments in the weeks leading up to the election. Now that Trump is the president-elect, what do you think the future of DEI is? Well, that in many ways was exactly what this show is about. I mean, I think from a governmental perspective, it is done. They are going to destroy it. This is what Elon and Vivek are going to do. They're going to look at all the agencies and just blow it apart. Not only because of DEI, it's going to be they're going to be looking at budgets and everything else. But that's that. In terms of the corporate portion of it, I think we're seeing a cultural shift right now. I think we're seeing a massive cultural shift. And as that shift continues, corporations, which especially public corporations, they are beholden to their shareholders. And more people are going to realize that putting systemically racist policies into your company to hire people of that color was actually discriminatory to people of that color. And that has nothing to do with the American dream. And they are going to largely stop. Yes, there'll be little places in Portland and Seattle and some of these other nonsensical places that will keep it, but it's going to be out of our government. And I think largely out of the corporate structure. Shelley says, you have mentioned your musical playlist. Does David share your musical preferences, or does he enjoy a different genre? Well, I'd like to think that I've bludgeoned him into liking only the things that I like, but he actually loves bluegrass and country music. I've actually really come around on country suddenly. I like bluegrass too, like just kind of like weekend, evening, whatever. But country he absolutely loves. So if he's cooking or just doing his thing or in charge then of the evening, whatever the plans are, then it's country or bluegrass. You know me, it's a little more old school. I like my 50s stuff. I like ambient stuff and all that. Shmoo says, how does Tulsi Gabbard as Director of Veterans Administration and Kari Lake as White House Press Secretary sound to you? And were you as surprised as many were with the great pick of Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense nominee? So I already addressed Pete. I think Tulsi for veterans would be phenomenal. Kari, I'm not so sure. You know, a lot of people are saying Alina Habba, who of course was and is Trump's one of Trump's main lawyers at the moment. I heard her speak at MSG, and she's like very, very primed for a public position. She looks the part and everything. So does Kari. I think Kari probably, you know, she's got her issues now in Arizona, having lost 2 elections there and still fighting all that stuff. I think Alina is probably the way they're going to go. Frank says, hey, Dave, what will be the biggest obstacles to overcome for the Trump administration in the next 2 years before the midterm? Well, look, first, there's the media component that they're going to do everything they can to trip him up and start scandals and everything else. But that really is shifting. We can feel it right now. Like if CNN comes out with a breaking thing tomorrow, Donald Trump was working with the Russians again, like very few people are going to buy it. So I would say that's one. And I would say the other part, and it does seem good right now because he's surrounding him, I think he's learned the lessons and he's surrounding himself with good people, is that you want to make sure that everyone that you're bringing in really understands what the mission is. So when we showed you that video of Ratcliffe right there, it's like he seems to get it. Homan, who's going to do the deportations, he seems to get it. Elon, Vivek, these people all seem to get it. So make sure that that the people that you're bringing in at the top really understand what are we really trying to do right now. We're not trying to fundamentally change America, which is what Obama, Biden, and Kamala wanted. We're actually trying to restore America and get rid of the nonsense. And if everyone can get on board that, then I think there's some good things to be had. 1775 coffee real quick and then more on the other side. Did you know that most coffee creamers aren't even made with real cream or dairy? That's right. Your morning coffee might be loaded with oils, sugars, thickeners, and a laundry list of chemicals that don't belong in your cup. But 1775 Coffee's protein creamer is different. Packed with 10 grams of whey protein, 0 sugar, 0 fat, and under 50 calories. Non-GMO and naturally flavored with a smooth vanilla taste. It's pure American fuel for those who want to conquer their day while keeping their health in check. Whether you're fasting, building muscle, or simply gearing up to take on whatever challenges come your way, 1775's creamer has you covered. Pair it with their premium single origin coffee and you're not just starting your morning, you're launching it. This duo is bold, consistent, and unapologetically steadfast as you are. Use code Rubin for 15% off and make your mornings as strong as your beliefs. All right, Lynn says, if it hadn't been for Trump, we most likely wouldn't have won the Senate. We have a few good ones like Ron Johnson, Rand Paul, Mike Lee, J.D. Vance, but it seems most are voting for the machine, no different than that lizard McConnell. I'm trying to be positive. What is your take? Well, look, so there's going to be a fight over the leadership right now. It sounds, Trump camp clearly wants Rick Scott from here in Florida. I think Rick Scott would be a great choice. Elon is backing him. It sounds like Ted Cruz just this morning backed him. So the fight really that exists in the Senate is McConnell. It's the old school guys, McConnell and that crew, the swamp crew in essence, versus Donald Trump and the new school people. So, and I'm getting breaking news right now regarding this. The first ballot for Senate leader is over and Senator Rick Scott did not receive enough votes to make it to the next round. The two remaining senators are John Thune and John Cornyn. So who was it that McConnell supported? It was one of them. So McConnell supported Cornyn. So that's interesting. So just as I'm saying who I think the best person is going to be, it looks like he's out. But look, you're not going to win every fight, right? Trump isn't even going to win every fight. So we'll see what happens with that. But that's I don't think that's a great moment just this right now, but let's see what happens over the next couple days. Glenn says, what are your favorite comedy, horror, sci-fi, Western, drama, and musical movies? Okay. Wait, scroll back so I can see them all and do it in order there. What is my favorite comedy? My favorite comedy by far, without question, is Naked Gun. Naked Gun took Airplane and just perfected it. I quote Naked Gun 300 times a day. I've seen it 4,000 times. Absolutely love it. And shout out to my new friend David Zucker, who was one of the co-creators and writers of Naked Gun, who reached out to me recently, and we've become fast buds. My favorite horror movie, Silence of the Lambs. Saw it in the movie theater. I was probably 12 years old, probably too young to see that. And it puts the lotion in the basket. Like, it's just, if you have not seen it, it's an unbelievable psychological thriller. Prime Jodie Foster, just absolute wonderful. Favorite sci-fi, Total Recall. I talk about it all the time. I was actually watching it while doing cardio this morning. Like, I've seen it a million times, and it's Philip K. Dick. It's prime Schwarzenegger, just amazing. Western, I'd say The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly with Clint Eastwood. Drama, this was the one I needed to think about a little bit. Can we, if we can throw mafia movies in there, those are dramas. I'm going to say Goodfellas. Goodfellas is probably my favorite mafia movie. And musical, I'm not a huge musical guy, but I'm going to say Grease. How about Grease? Little Travolta, little Olivia Newton-John, little Frankie Valli dancing at the beginning, not bad. Thatch says, here in Tennessee, we see cars still with California plates all over the place. And I have learned that some came here because they have not been Californicated and simply come for no income tax. The culture /safety /decent school group is grateful, and the no tax crowd is snotty and woke. In your experience, how do those two groups differ in size? Right, so you're getting people. Some people are coming because they've been fully red-pilled and they want to get the hell out of Cali. And of course, some people still do come just because of tax breaks. That might be why Utah, when we showed you that map yesterday of the entire country basically moving more red, Utah was the only place that moved more blue. And that probably is because of Cali wokesters just being like, they don't fully get it yet. They're going to leave Cali and move to Utah and vote the wrong way. I don't know that I can break down the numbers for you, particularly as it pertains to Tennessee, but I can tell you here in Florida, there's huge, it's not just anecdotal, which I see every day when I meet my neighbors and everything else, and the amount of people that are moving here that are voting the right way. But we now know that Miami-Dade, which was the blue epicenter of Florida, moved, what was it, almost 15 points plus red? Like it's now as red as any other place in this super red state. So I think the nice thing that has happened over the last couple of years is as the left went so crazy, they woke up so many people. The evidence of that is Trump and what happened with the House and the Senate, and that people who moved to these red states are honoring that by voting the right way. Not everybody, and you got to work on those newcomers. I tell you all the time, I am so appreciative of the OG Floridians who did it right. And even now, I've been here, it'll be 3 years next month. I still, when I see new neighbors, if they say, oh, how you doing? Start chatting. I'm always going out of my way when they ask me where I came from to say, don't worry, I'm not bringing that shit here. I'll fight you naked, says. Some believe the left will have to wait for the worst of the woke brainwash to die off before it can recover as a political position. I think that is true when it comes to the electorate. Do you think individuals should make it a point to remove this infection as we find it in our daily life through legal methods? Of course. Well, look, the woke class and the amount of people that have been infected by this and these kids, that's why I don't make fun of the 16-year-old girl on TikTok who's screaming, right? Like, I have a lot of empathy, not suicidal empathy, as Gad Saad would say, but I have empathy for the young people that have just been so broken by the wrong set of ideas. But yes, I'd say there's legal means. Like, if you are now at a company and you've been passed over on a job because you're a middle-aged white man, sue. Like, don't let they're going to Elon's going to handle the government side of this thing, and Trump's going to handle the governmental side of this thing. But in the private sector, no more of this bullshit. No more of, oh, just because you're a black lesbian, do you get to run that department when somebody else has been working there 20 years longer and is more qualified, right? We don't want discrimination either way. Discrimination is discrimination is discrimination. All right, I think we got one more, and then we got to jump on to Piers. Aisher says, with Thanksgiving and holidays approaching, we all have so much to be thankful and grateful for. That is true. Is there a tradition, new or old, that you observe as an act of giving, service, and charity? Well, we do host David's whole family here, and we cook for everybody and host everybody and all that, but that's not giving or anything else. We donate a lot of stuff, and this year we're donating like a tremendous amount of stuff. I actually have a huge amount of stuff in the garage right now, because we have so much baby stuff that we're not using anymore. Since we moved here, we've redone a lot of things, and we've got dressers, and we're donating a ton of stuff. You get a tax write-off on it, so it is not, even for selfish purposes, if no other reason, there are reasons to donate things. You know what? I will try to get to a soup kitchen this year or something along those lines. If anyone knows one local in the Miami area, Adi, maybe we could look into that, and there's something that I could do. Maybe I can meet a couple of you guys there. That would be nice to do a little bit more than just giving stuff. Stuff's important, but the human touch obviously is as well. All right, I'm jumping on Piers Morgan now. It's a debate with like 4 people. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of screaming and the usual stuff over there. Tomorrow, 11 a.m. with Megyn Kelly, and no post-game, as I said, because I got to jump. Quick, you're going to really dig this cold close. I just finished season 1. My third go-around of The Sopranos, just finished season 1, the season finale last night, so we thought this would be nice. Go.
In and out, bada bing, bada boom. But if you even think about not voting, forget about it. In this family, we get off our ass and vote for the guy that took every punch, lie, indictment, even a bullet to his head just to make this country great again. That's our guy. We're Americans, and I'll be damned if we let a bunch of freaks destroy what our ancestors built. Out of here. Now go do what you gotta do and vote early, vote strong, vote Trump. Or else.